Uyghur ethnic. Historically, the independent Uyghurs has lived in the Uyghuristan for more than 2,000 years, but China claims the area is this historical legacy and the earth forest cannot be separated from China. Uyghurs before the historical fact, so the China claim are vast and the interfact history worried in the interest of the expression in history. Evocations are descendants of Turkey can live in the ASEAN, Central ASEAN, as a species in the Chinese province of the Xinjiang. 1949 year, 96% of the population of the Xinjiang was the Turkey capital. However, the last Chinese census say there are now only 7.2 million Uyghurs of 15 million Xinjiang residents. In the addition, there are ethnic Karats 1 million, Kyrgyz 150,000 and the Tarka 150,000. Uyghurs figures be the number 50 million. There are addition now in the Xinjiang. There are live Asian revision and Nitika has Chinese, Manchu, Uyghur and Mongol. Uyghurs differs in the rest from the Chinese Han. There are more like the cost elephant, what Han are more like Asian. The figures have in the history for more than 4,000 years. During this time, they have developed this universal culturist communities system and the constituted a lot what the civilizations had user worship were written under the figures has to kingdom of the 6th and 7th century. Then user occurred with where the abuse of the Uyghurs within there was of the almost 800 years after converted Islam in the 7th century. The organizers of the state and the Arabica Al-Jafar the Fiji have become into Islam, then dominated of the original feature tour that in the Central Asia.
Reason for the conflict between Uyghur Muslim ethnic and the China government. The China government suspects the Uyghur as rebel. When viewed from its physical form, the Uyghur have a white physique and are cultural closer to the Turkestan race. The uniformate fate of the Uyghur began when war was broke out. At that time, Xinjiang residents, including Uyghur, tried to join the Soviets, but to no avail because the Beijing-based national force finally forced the Uyghur back into the RRC sovereign territory in 1949. Since then, Uyghur have been labeled as having a tendency to rebel by top brass in Beijing, China's economic politic that prioritizes the ethnic Han further forced the atmosphere. The existence of paranoids. If Uyghurs want to get rid of the RRC, the China government is also suspicious of Uyghur because they are considered to want to break away from the RRC. Additionally, discrimination emerged. Human Rights Watch said more than 10 million Uyghurs were making it difficult to make a passport. Different from Han citizen, who is easily wander abroad. For ethnic Uyghur, immigration officials require them to submit dozens of documents and interviews to examine their political ideology. Uyghurs are accused of entering terrorist networks. As a result of this treatment of discrimination, the Uyghur finally attack the Han people. Their target is the ethnic Han apparatus. The Lodz attack occurred in January 2007. An estimate 18 Uyghurs were shot dead on charge of joining an international terrorist network. There were even reports of military attacks on several villages which were accused of being terrorist dens, including a prohibition on fasting for Uyghurs during Ramadan.
Okay, now I want to explain about the human rights violations against Uyghur Muslim ethnic by the government of China. The crimes of genocide experienced by the Uyghur are one of the crimes of cultural genocide. That is, ethnic Uyghur Muslims are prohibited from communicating using their own local language. In addition, the crime committed by the Chinese government itself against the Uyghur in Xinjiang is a violation of religious freedom. The government of China forbids ethnic Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang from carrying out religious activities and obligations according to their religion. Uyghur Muslims are also prohibited from performing religious rituals such as prayer and fasting during Ramadan. Mosques in Xinjiang are heavily guarded by Chinese Communist Party security force. Uyghur Muslims are also forbidden from entering the mosque and praying. Even officials distribute food and drink to the home of Uyghur Muslims during the holy month of Ramadan and force Uyghur Muslims not to fast. However, the Chinese Communist Party government says this is done to maintain security and stability for his country. The government of China also imposed a headscarf or veil ban on Uyghur Muslim women. The issue of wearing headscarf, which has become a tradition of Uyghur Muslim community in Xinjiang, is considered a threat by the Chinese government since 1966 until 1976. In the mid of 1990s, only Northern women in Xinjiang used the veil. In 2014, China officially launched the Strict Heart Policy campaign, which has previously been dropped in 2001, after China officially designated its Turkestan Islamic movement as a terrorist organization. In the camp, their prisoners are taught Mandarin language, sing the Chinese national anthem, and understand the rules that apply to Muslims in China. In the camp, they are closely monitored, including in matters of worship. They may not contact their families, and the government also cut off rations aboard. The prisoners can leave the camp if they have memorized at least 1,000 Chinese characters or have seen loyalty to the country. Ethnic Uyghur Muslims are also prohibited by the government of China from having freedom of association and opinion, barriers to education and discrimination, also the death penalty against political prisoners. In addition, the existence of Islamic schools and imams is tightly controlled by the Chinese Communist Party government, and imams are required to stand on the side of the government in order to launch propaganda for Uyghur Muslims. Okay, and the second one is humanitarian crimes against ethnic Uyghur by the government of China. The Chinese army again commit violations against Uyghur Muslims if it caused at least 8 ethnic Uyghurs to be shot dead for allegedly attacking police officials and giving them the nickname as extremist Muslims. As for the official news from the Kingdom of Xinjiang, which claimed that there were Uyghurs involved in the attack by police officials who had recently been detained, 9 of them were known for sentencing and charged as terrorists who carried knives and explosives. It also reported that dozens of Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang had died as a result of being shot dead by the Chinese Communist regime in the last few months last year on charge of ferocity and held as extremist Muslims, where the accusations were completely groundless and without evidence and strong compensation from the court. And these acts constitute grave human rights violations which have been committed by the government of China against ethnic Uyghur Muslims because they are included in crimes against humanity and stipulated in the International Criminal Court. Okay, and the last one is the aggression crimes of the Uyghur ethnicity. The government of China insists that the anti-government separatist movement in Xinjiang has links to a movement led by international terrorist Osama bin Laden. China also claims the Eastern Turkestan Islamic Movement, which is an anti-government movement of the Uyghur group, received funding and training directly from the terrorist network led by Osama bin Laden. Xinjiang is also referred to as a place where violence and terrorist attacks most often occur in China. In November 2011, China reported to the UN Security Council that the Uyghur ethnic group was linked to the Taliban international terrorist movement in Afghanistan and had their full support. In order to get international support in the aftermath and of the equalize the ethnic Uyghur group in the line with international terrorism, the government of China released a document explaining the alleged activities of Uyghur terrorist groups in China. The document confirms that the East Turkestan Islamic movement has carried out a bombing and killing campaign consisting of more than 200 incidents resulting in 162 deaths and 405 40 injured, and as such, that is the Uyghurs who are responsible for violence and that occurred in Xinjiang, received training and funds from Pakistan and Afghanistan, and direct funding from Osama bin Laden. In December 2013, a document was released containing a list of people involved in terrorism by the government of China, aimed at gaining international support. And it is turned out that the efforts of the Chinese government to propagate ethnic Uyghur Muslims as international terrorists are successful. Human rights violations against ethnic Uyghur by the government of China are cases of human rights violations that also have links with international law. These crimes can be prosecuted and tried by international judicial institution, which is International Criminal Court. Because the government of China actions against ethnic Uyghur Muslims include gross human rights violations such as crimes against humanity, genocide crimes, and crimes of aggression.
Handling conflict between Uyghur Muslim ethnic and the government of China. In April 2004, in Munich, our representative of Uyghur ethnic defenders in the world gathered to talk about international organizations that were able to represent Uyghurs' interests as a whole. Therefore, an international organization was formed specifically to deal with the problem. That is the World Uyghur Congress. Nah, the purpose of this organization, main objective is promote human rights, religious freedom, and determine the destiny of the Uyghur people in East Turkestan in the future in a peaceful, democratic, and non-violent manner. Uh, WUC itself is a devastating container internal difference between WUC supergroup spread all over the world in narrating to the international community the conflict in Xinjiang. World Uyghur Congress policy, principles, and instruments. The principles of this organization is the agenda of democracies and the agenda for peace. This was explained in the organization mission statement regarding the principles of democratic pluralism and the rejection of totalitarianism, religious intolerance, and terrorism. This organization aims to bring about peace and democracy in the Uyghur case. And this organization as a legal organization that has collaborated with the United Nations and the European Union. This organization policy instrument is listed in the mission statement declaration 6 December 2010. This organization collaboration with other parties related to conflict in Xinjiang that always document every meeting and General Assembly conduct. All activities carried out by WUC can be accessed on their official website. Relationships established by this organization with another organization that play an active role in Uyghur issues are also displayed on the website. In 2018, a universal periodic review will be conducted regarding the application of human rights law in China. This concerns the issue of ethnic discrimination report by one of the UNHRC committees. This organization makes a counter report which contains human rights violations in China. Then lobby the Elimination and Racial Discrimination Committee to raise some of the questions in the submission report to the China government, because this organization, as I know, which focus on humanitarian issues in Xinjiang, achieves its goals in handling this conflict in line with what Bill Morton said, using dialogue, lobbying, and international campaigns. Um, Role of this organization in handling the conflict with China government. First, fighting for freedom of language of Uyghur through movement for Uyghur mother's language-based education. In 2014, this organization conducted a movement concerning Uyghur mother tongue called Movement for Uyghur Mother Language-Based Education. This coincided with UNESCO International Mother Language Day. This movement aims to fight language injustice for the Uyghurs. The language policy made by the China government has taken away the rights of mother tongue for the Uyghur people. Second, make a report of Uyghur ethnic human rights violation and publish regular annual report. Um, in 2014, this organization released a report titled um, Report on Human Rights Violation in East Turkestan, which is in the spotlight for the world international in this report. This organization submits several reports including increased dialogue mediation with the Chinese government for conflicts. This can be solved internationally. Um, The international community put more pressure on the China government to reform its policies on the Uyghur and be more transparent in reporting what happened in East Turkestan, Xinjiang. China is expected to open the path of implementing legitimate autonomy laws so that Xinjiang can determine the direction of its own regional policy. This organization also highlights the fact that China violates its own law regarding the protection of religious and cultural freedom of the ethnic minority, Uyghurs, and several other ethnies. Third, reviewing the implementation of China law that is not in accordance with human rights value. Um, in November 2015, this organization collaborated with Uyghur Human Rights. The project released an alternative report on the development of the Uyghur conflict with the Chinese government. This report contains challenges and violence implemented in Chinese law that need to be reviewed, including definition of violence according to law in China, methods, training, provided to policies or security force in China. Fourth, handling Uyghur refugees. In June 2016, this organization released a report on Uyghur refugees and asylum seekers. This report aims to show the international community that the danger situation achieved by Uyghur in their territory has encouraged them to seek asylum, and most are displaced in Turkey. The refugees claim that the state didn't give freedom and gave full control over themselves, so that they had no choice but to evacuate. And 5. Voice about forced labor in Xinjiang. November 2016, this organization released a report on forced labor at Xinjiang. This report raised the issue of the forced labor system that developed in Xinjiang against the Uyghurs. This policy is listed in China's official regulation on re-education through labor system in 2013. This organization reports forced labor conditions from year to year. the relationship between China's written policy regarding forced labor with concrete actions on the Uyghurs, as well as the relationship between forced labor policies in China with domestic policies and international law that prohibits such acts. This report, according to WUC, aims to inform the international community that the forced labor policy was carried out by the Chinese government to control the daily life in the Uyghurs, of the Uyghurs. Sixth, WUC conduct a universal periodic review of China report submission. On April 2014, WUC released the Universal Periodic Review of China Report Submission. This report contains a review of legal violations committed by the Chinese government as well as the situation faced by ethnic Uyghurs in the last 5 years. This report is aimed at the international community and the Chinese government in order to be aware of the Uyghur ethnic situations. In July, this organization conduct a parallel submission congress for CERG. This organization sent a parallel report on case of discrimination carried out by the Chinese government precisely before Chinese review of implementation of discrimination laws by CERD. And seventh, strengthening the cooperation of WUC with international human rights bodies to increase credibility. This organization realized that China, as a superpower country, would only respond to the Uyghur ethnic problem when faced with the United Nations, countries in the world, and human rights enforcement organizations. Apart from the WUC is also active in various meetings at the international level and taking part in activities carried out by the United Nations, the European Union, and other non-governmental organizations such as UNPO, MRG, HRIC. This organization categorized the Uyghur issue into the discussions they carry out and directly or indirectly gain international recognition of their existence and struggle. Maybe that's all about VR video. Thank you for watching.